You know all of us.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're all friends.
My message is on the prodigal son and my testimony. I kind of mixed it all together. So it's Luke 15:11 and on. First, I'm going to open with prayer. Dear Lord, thank you for giving us opportunity to pray, Lord. I know, or to preach, Lord. I know you've called me to service in some sort since I was 12, Lord. Lord, thank you for giving this opportunity, Lord. Forgive me for where I fall short, Lord. Lord, I just ask you to let me get out of the way so that you can be lifted up, Lord. God, ask this all in your son's precious name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Luke 15:11 to 13 first. And this is Jesus speaking. And he said, a certain man had two sons. I'll wait for everybody to get there first. Okay. So this is Jesus speaking. A certain man had two sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together and took a journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. That's like the stage of your life, like you're either lost or you feel like you don't need God, and you can also be saved and still have kind of like, I got this. I can do God's will with my way. And speaking from experience, that does not work. I got saved when I was 12, and immediately after I got saved, I knew God was calling me to some form of, whether it be preaching, youth. I always felt it was some form of youth ministry. And so I was like, all right, cool, I know what he was calling me to do. All right, now how do I do this? And immediately I stopped and didn't ask God, well, how do you want me to do this? I got this. So and the lost is, I don't need God. I can do this on my own will, and that's definitely I think it's definitely with a lot of teens and even older people, adults. And so I honestly was in that stage from about 12 to 15. And then about 16, I moved on to the next one, Luke 15:14 through 16. And it says, Jesus still talking. And when he spent all he had, there arose a mighty famine in the land, and he began to be in want. And he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he set him into the fields to feed swine. And he would fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swine did eat, and no man gave unto him. And there's a couple things I want to point out in that chunk. That's like the too proud to ask. Like, you know you're not really doing God's will, but now you're either too far back and too proud to ask, don't know how to ask for help, or you're just cold-hearted now. And honestly, that was probably the biggest stage of my Christian life, and really my life. Basically, I was from 16 to about 22-ish there. And I mean, I'd have moments that I would try to get right with God, and then I'd immediately take it back over. And I was in a lot of youth groups, so I was trying to do it for God's will, but I was still trying to find God's will in my own means. Like, for example, it says in Luke 15:15. When the famine came, he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. He didn't go to God or back to his father. He went to somebody in that situation. And I mean, from 16 to 15 or 16 to 22, that was probably top of the hill, down to the valley, and coming back up. I mean, going through high school, I helped out Wilma a lot. I was always here with Wilma and stuff. And and that was the one thing I always knew, that I needed to be around Wilma. Because I got closer to God when I was around Wilma. She helped me, and it was, and I don't think she knew, I know she doesn't know how much she has helped. When you're too proud to ask for directions, you get cold, you get hard, and then you just give up.
Yeah.
And then you get to the point sometimes, I do. You don't even necessarily, I don't want to say care about God's will, but sometimes, yeah. You don't care about God's will, and you just, I want to do what I want to do, and
Right.
you get situations that really aren't godly, but at this point you don't care anymore. And like, I went from coming here regularly to meeting a girl I knew in high school who really wasn't in a good situation and moving in with her.
Okay, it's just can't.
Can't come.
Okay. So, and I mean, I knew that was wrong. But I had gotten so cold and so proud that I didn't want to ask for directions, and I couldn't. I felt I was too proud to say, hey, I need help, but because I was going to one, I'm the Christian guy.
Right.
And I got too proud to ask.
Right.
And I swear, every time that I would come to a church service, whether it be here, my mom's, or another church I'd try, it was on adultery. And I'm like, okay, this is annoying. And honestly, it started to get a little annoying. And then God's like, look, moron, look, open your eyes and read it. And I was like, oh. So the next chunk, Luke 15 to 19, what I call coming to your senses. And when he came to himself, coming to your senses, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, excuse me, I have sinned against heaven and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. That was my lowest point, living with my ex-girlfriend. It was the lowest point of my life, farthest I've ever been from God. And God convicted me and got me out of that. And amazingly, through God, it had to be God. My mom was just like, because I had moved out, I tell my mom, just grab myself and left. So a month later, I'm like, hey mom, I need a place to stay. And she just, okay, and took me right back in. And I mean, that was totally God. I mean, I don't really think any mother should or would really, but my mom was just like, took me back. So, and we talked, and my mom talked a lot, and I talked to Wilma. And I'm like, I want to get back into, I know God's calling me, I know I messed up, I need to get back in. And I mean, me and Wilma had a talk, and I'm like, I love this place, Wilma, but I'm feeling called somewhere else.
Right.
And that was my biggest thing I struggled with.
Yeah.
because I love all you guys, and I really love Wilma and Cindy and all them, because I mean, and Harvey and all of them, I
Yes.
basically grew up from,
This is home.
yeah, this is home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like, I don't want to do this. But then God was like, do you trust me? Like,
Amen.
or are you uncomfortable?
Right.
Because you just tried to be the comfortable thing, and that doesn't work.
Amen.
So, and through a lot of talk, and a lot of talking with Wilma, and a lot of prayer, I just, God, I want to live for you, Lord. I'm not trying to. I'm not looking for a girlfriend, Lord. I'm done. I've spent 16 to 22 trying to find that. So, and obviously putting girlfriends and girls first doesn't work.
Right.
So, I'm like, God, I want to live for you well. I'm like, all right. And Wilma pointed out that State Line and Nottingham Missionary Baptist are both good churches. And she's like, now, Nottingham, more suits and tie, and really into music. I had no idea, you said that, how much they are.
Yes.
And then she's like, and Rusty goes to State Line. I'm like, okay, so I know Rusty that goes to State Line. And they're a little more laid back. And I said, but I know, and at the time I knew my, 3 people that went to Nottingham, which is now my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law's husband, another brother-in-law, that I both worked with, and a girl I went to school with, who's also Sarah's cousin. So they're all related to Sarah. So I'm like, well, I'm going to try that out. So my first Sunday there was homecoming. And I don't know if everybody knows what homecoming is. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like, what's homecoming? Like, that was a dance in high school. So I went, and it was nothing but music, I swear. It was like music, music, music. And it was a lot, but it was nice. Not necessarily hymns, but gospel, not,
Country, Southern gospel.
yeah, basically
Yeah,
Southern gospel. It was, and I definitely like country music, so, and it was just like, wow, I miss these old, because I grew up with my mom's church, before when I was a little kid, I think it was Methodist, and they sung hymns and stuff. So, and I miss the hymns. Because my mom, the church I had come from before Wilma's, didn't even sing hymns or gospel music. It was like soft rock. And I'm like, with God thrown in it. Soft rock with God thrown in it. I'm like, that's not really Christian music. But I'm not going to get on that. But it was like, and the music just, like, the first one was like, wow, she wasn't kidding. Wilma was not kidding. I really like the music. And I mean, it was awesome because I hadn't had it in such a long time because this is awesome. And I'm like, God, this is pretty cool. And then it was either her brother or her brother-in-law that was like, hey, we're having a banquet afterwards. And I'm like, I'm not gonna turn down food. Free food. Sweet. And the joke is that's what got me to keep going there because it's good food. And I was like, all right. So I'm like, I started praying, and I think I talked to him again. I'm like, I really liked it. And I said, and I asked somebody, one of the people I knew there. I said, is this your normal service? Like 2 hours worth of music and a little chunk of preaching? No. There's music, there's singing, and then we have a message. I'm like, all right, well, I'll come. The next Sunday. Well, I went the next Sunday, and I'd been praying the whole week, and it was like hellfire, and he was screaming. And I get a lot of people that scares off. But Wilma is a little hellfire-ish herself, so I kind of like that style.
You have to.
Well, what impressed me the most was, and I'm not trying to make a commercial for Nottingham Missionary Baptist, but he was preaching, and it wasn't just like he was saying something, he believed this in himself.
Right.
And that's why he was so loud, screaming, and passionate,
Right.
because he believed it himself.
Yes.
And I can read people pretty well, and I could read it that he was like, this isn't just something he's just trying to get money from the church. No, he believes this. He doesn't care what we put in the offering plate. This is what he believes. And so that really, really impressed on me. So I was like, all right, God, I said, Lord, I'm gonna give us a try. So I started going, and then immediately after I got right with God and started going, came to my senses and was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to my Father. I did what Luke 15, 20, and 21 is, returning to the Father. And he arose and came to his father, but while he was still yet a great way off, his father saw him and came and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and no more worthy to be called thy son. And so immediately when I was like, all right, God, I'm coming back, I'm going to do your will, whether I like it or not, because doing my will doesn't work. And Lord, quite frankly, I'm tired of beating my head against the wall. It gets old after a while. I'm a little slow, but I finally got through my head. So I was like, all right, I really like Nottingham. And I started, like, it was getting, because like he's preaching, and that kind of preaching works for me. And I mean, yeah, I'm not a really dresser-upper. As you can see, I'm wearing jeans and boots. But it was like, because actually the first time he mentioned something about wearing a suit. And I showed up in black jean shorts and a t-shirt. And I prayed about that, and I'm like, God, like what's your will? And then the next Sunday he goes, it's not because God's not gonna send you to hell because you're wearing jeans and shorts, or because and you're not going to heaven because you're wearing a suit and tie. He goes, you'll go to heaven no matter what you're wearing, or you're going to hell no matter what you're wearing. Right. He goes, but when you believe in, I think it's just how powerful and how mighty God is, it makes you stand back. And it makes you want to reverence. Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking. Reverence him. And it was like, wow, God, that you literally just answered my question. Awesome. And as soon as I started coming back and coming to my senses and returning to my Father, which I love, and I know it's not something all that confusing, but I love the fact that it's a story of the Father and the Son, because that's exactly what I did. I came back to my Father.
That's right.
And that hit me huge last night. I was going over my notes. And it was like, that's so amazing, because it's exactly like that. Because it's like, I talk to God like I'm talking to a friend or like my dad. And honestly, I have a better relationship with God than I do my dad, and that's obviously a good thing. But, excuse me. Sorry, I'm getting over pneumonia. And I noticed that back when I was still like 16 to 22, I struggled with praying. And I noticed that's the first thing that goes with me. Is I quit praying, and my prayer style changes. I get from what I call preachy, and it's the stereotypical, like what you should pray, how you should pray, and to how I pray. I'm talking to a friend. Like, and I mean, I know some people are like, you shouldn't call God dude, but guess what? He's big enough to handle it. I'm sorry, that's my personal opinion. But hey, God wants to have a relationship. Right. It's not a religion, it's a relationship.
That's right.
And so I noticed that I could start to pray like he was sitting right next to me. And I feel amazing when I get to that point.
Right.
Because I'm trying to find God's will, and it lifts me up. I'm not even trying to, I'm just trying to live for his will. So I'm like, all right, I'm trying to live for his will. So then about a month into it, but going to that church, what I have for Luke 15:22 to 24. But the father said to his servants, "Bring forth the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand, shoes on his feet, and bring hither the fatted calf, kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this is my son, was dead, and is now alive, and is alive again. He was lost, and is found," and they began to be merry. I started to notice that God was doing what I have grace and gifts, giving me grace and gifts that I was like, God, I was living like hell 6 months ago, literally. Like, I was as far away from you as I could, as I could be. I was saved. I couldn't get any farther away from it. And I'm like, the church has been like, just taking me in as like one of them. I wasn't a member yet. But just take me in. I mean, I got great friends down here. I mean, these were friends I had at work that I worked with. But I mean, they were work friends. But now they're like,
Right.
and I mean, the preachers, the people at the church are nice. I'm like, and then I just was like, I was amazed by that. And I just kept telling God, Lord, I'm giving you the need for a girlfriend, the need for, like, to have that in my life, Lord. And because I knew that I hadn't done that before. So I was doing everything in my power not to take that back.
Right.
And so I kept praying and praying and praying about it. And her brother-in-law, really good friends with, and I was good friends with him at Lowe's. And he was, he'd call me up, and when he called me up, and I'd been going to church for about a month there now. And he goes, "Hey, Laura," his wife, her little sister is pretty cute. And I'm like, "All right, Alan." I'm like, he goes, well, where's your, like, you dating anybody? I'm like, "No, I'm just trying to get life with God." I said, "I'm trying to get God number one in my life." "Well, she's really cute." I'm like, "Alan, I'm trying to get my life with God number one." "Thanks, no thanks." And so and then he'd say it like every time I saw him. And I'm like, "Alan, dude, you're an awesome friend, but back off." Like, I'm trying to, and I mean, it got pointed. I'm like, "God, what's this going on?" Because I mean, there was another Christian, real good Christian girl that I knew, and I'm like, all right, when God says go ahead, that's who I'll pursue first. But God, I'm not even doing that. Lord, I'm not, and I'll give it to you. And he kept bringing it up, and then he, about, I think a month after that, he calls me again. "Hey, she's single now." "Alan, dude, knock it off." I said, "I'm really just trying to get God number one." And so I said, I appreciate it. I said, "You guys are awesome." I said, "It's an awesome family." I said, "And she seems very nice and everything." But I said, "Alan, I'm trying to get God number one." He goes, "All right, well, I can respect that." So immediately after I hung up the phone with him, I prayed. And I was like, "Okay, God, what do I do?" And now, being that this is 21st century generation or whatever, we have Facebook. I'm like, he's like, "Talk to her." Like, okay, so I Facebooked. I went to Facebook stalker actually. But no, you had to friend her first.
Oh, yeah.
Which was really, really hard because it's like, crap, now she knows I'm interested. But so I had a Facebooker, and so she friended me, and then immediately we stalked each other. And we went through everything. Well, I'm reading her about. I don't know how many people have Facebook, but you have the About You column, and it's where you put like what you believe in, like your personality. You try to put your personality on there. And mine is like, I'm an American, like all this, like, and it's like a paragraph long, and it's just like I believe in the Second Amendment and stuff like that. And well, I'm reading hers, and it's like 5 pages. but it's everything I believe in. Like, it's like she doesn't believe in abortion, and it's like, I mean, honestly, it's completely kind of opinionated, but that's actually my opinions. So I was like, wow, she, and I'm like, this is a girl that actually has her own personality. And that, to me, was amazing, because I'm like, that's kind of woman you need to find, because then she'll put God first, not you. And so, we're talking, and now, I come a found that you hit 18, there's no curfew, no, like, you tell mom, hey mom, I'm going to be out tonight, I'll be spending the night at my sister's house. And that's it. Also, I'm like, all right, God, I guess I should pursue this. So I said, all right, well, I said, you better hang out. And I swear, I just wanted to hang out and talk. But I had to call her dad. I'm 22. Scares me to death. And I'm like, so she gives me her dad's phone number. And I called, hi, this is, and I'm stumbling on, and I made an idiot of myself, but he's like, well, I said, I'd like to take Sarah to McDonald's. I wasn't trying to be a date, just trying somewhere public that we can talk. Because, as you asked me, McDonald's is not a good date. But, so I was like, I just want to like get to know her and talk, and he goes, all right, well, I'll talk to her mom. And that's all Marty said. I'm like, okay, you have a good day. And so I hang up. Well, what I don't anybody realizes is I can't read her dad at all. At all. Which scares me to death. Because I can typically read just about anybody. And I can't read him at all. And I mean, he had said hi to me a lot at church and stuff, because I was friends with his son and his son-in-law. So I mean, he was nice, but then I'm like, now what's he thinking? I mean, it scared me to death. So he's like, yeah, you can take her, but she's got to be back home by midnight. And I'm like, okay, she's 20. I didn't say this to him. I said, okay. Well, I'm thinking in my head, she's 20. And I'm like, God, what's up with this? And he's like, you want to do it my way or not? And I'm like, okay. And so, and of course it's horrible. I ended up, she said hi, and I told her my whole life story. Because what had happened was, I told God, I said, all right, God, if you're putting a woman in my life, then I'm not just dating to date. I'm dating to get married. Well, Lord, I had enough relationships that didn't end really well. I'm going to do everything in my power to make this one not work. I'm like, because I'm pretty good at messing up relationships, so this should be hard. Because if it's going to work out, it's going to be your will. If it doesn't work out, then it's obviously not your will, and it shouldn't happen. Well, 2 days before this, her brother that I work with, who is now a cop in Maryland, state trooper in Maryland. Yeah, that's what I said. Is like, hey, you want to go to Cabela's? I'll drive. I'll pick you up. And I'm like, you want to drive 2.5 hours, you're going to drive an hour out of the way to come pick me up, and then drive 2 hours? And I'm like, all right, God, this is something. And he's like, just say yes. Okay, so I said yes. So we're on the way up, and then I realized what he's doing. He's interrogating me. They already know that I'm going to ask Sarah. So I tell him my life story too, because I'm like, all right, look, this is going to work. Because I'm not trying to have a relationship, and he's the cop, he's by the book, he's like, you don't have sex before marriage, you don't ever live with anybody, and you're just like, I mean, not saying that right or wrong, I believe you should wait till marriage, and I do believe in all the stuff that he believes in. He's just a little bit more stickler for it. Well, and I know that his brother-in-law, the other guy I know, he did the same thing too, and he took a bad report back to mom and dad, and mom and dad didn't let Laura, her sister, see him. I'm like, perfect. So I gotta make him have a bad report on me. This will work. So now he goes home back 2 days later. He had already given this report. So I give the same story to Sarah, and she goes home. So I gave two people the same story. Apparently that worked because I didn't lie, didn't try to hide anything. I told them everything. And so Sarah's dad's like, you want to come, like, I think she called me or somebody said, hey, you want to come over? We talked and like, well, we appreciate your honesty and that shows a lot of character. And I'm like, I'm just trying to do God's will. And that obviously really affected my father-in-law because he is a deacon at the church. So her sister-in-law, or her sister, was like, hey, you want to come over to our house, we're playing games. And so it was her sister and her husband, I worked with, her brother that I worked with, and us. Basically 3 couples, but we weren't dating, but it was 3 couples. And so we had an awesome time, and I was like, all right, well, and the whole time I'm trying to scare her off. Well, about 3-4 days I realized that, no, God actually wants me to do this. And I'm like, all right, God, fine. Lord, show me your will. Let me do your will, Lord. Because obviously I've returned to you, Lord. I'm not trying to go back out. I want to stay in you. And I mean, there was the whole curfew thing, and then they told me, her dad's like, okay, we're going to give you permission to, I believe he actually said court her. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, I mean, to me, family that's like 18, see ya, and you got to court her? I'm like, okay. I wasn't even sure what it was, to be completely honest. And, well, you have to, like, do you want to go to McDonald's? You have to say, we're going to go to McDonald's. You got to tell me tell us what you're going to do when you get back. Like, and you can hang out here till 12, we don't mind. But if you're going to go somewhere, you have to tell us exactly where you're going to be and give us text message and calls. I said, okay, that's kind of odd because we're both above the age of 20. I mean, we're not just 18, we're above the age of 20. And I'm like, okay, but all right, God, this is obviously worth it. And at the time, I didn't understand exactly. But I had, I was like, all right. So her dad's like, well, I think her mom said, well, this is going to take probably a couple months. Well, I'm starting to get hints that her dad actually really likes me. But I still can't rate him, so I don't honestly know. But I think he does. But I don't want to let on to that because I'm terrified, like he's going to kill me. Because she's got one brother's a cop, one brother's a butcher, one's a politician, and her brother-in-law is a crime scene cleanup.
Well,
I'm like, I'm in trouble. He'll never find me. And I'm like, and dad's the kingpin. So I'm like, all right. He's starting to like my mother, but all right. So her dad, I think it was her mom who said, no, it's gonna be about a couple months, maybe. Well, so that Thursday night, I think it was, I said, hey, I'd like to take her to the Cecil Solanco Fair. I went to the Solanco Fair, and we had a great time. We talked, and at this point, I realized that this is a serious relationship, and I know it's only been a week, but I realized that, look, I'm trying to do God's will, and you don't find dating in the Bible. So I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be for marriage, so I either need to scare her off now. I mean, really, my whole look was, I need to scare her off, or we need to talk about it. Marriage and stuff, like having the kids you want, stuff like that. And I mean, it sounded fast, and it was fast, but if you're looking to marry somebody, or looking for God's will, which leads to marriage, you got to know all of the facts. So we talked a lot, and I dropped her off, and we hung out and watched TV a little with her parents. And I liked all the shows that her dad liked, which was really cool because when her dad was in the room, we watched those shows. I'm like, sweet. So I didn't have cable, so they have cable. I'm like, cool. But so the next day, my phone was tied to my email. Well, her mom apparently emailed both of us, like a 3-page email, giving me permission to date her. A week. Not a couple months, a week. And dating was, hey, I'm going to go out with Mark, I'll be home at 12. So the story was a curfew, but you didn't have to give them like a strategic list agenda.
Your schedule.
Yeah, you didn't have a schedule, so, but it was like a 3-page email. Well, it's up to my phone. So it comes over like 6 text messages. After my phone's like done vibrating off my bed, I'm at 6 o'clock in the morning because I hadn't woke up yet. I read it, and it's, long story short, it's her giving us permission to date. So I asked her out over text message, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
So we were like, all right, we want to go to Applebee's. We went to Applebee's. Well, long story short, 3 months go by. And I'm like, God, I'm really thinking about marrying her. But dude, it's only been 3 months. And I talked to my mom, and I'm really close with my mom. Because I come from a broken family, and my mom and dad got divorced. And that's more baggage. My mom and dad were divorced. So marriage is kind of really iffy with me. And I'm like, Mom. And so I asked my mom one day, at this point I was living with my grandmother. And because my grandfather had died. And so I was like, all right, Mom, I'll live with my mom. I didn't have a curfew, so it was a place to stay, basically. So I was like, all right, I'll live with Mom. So my mom hadn't seen me for a couple months. I mean, she saw me at work. We worked together, but not hung out and like talked and stuff. So out of the blue, I called my mom up. Hey, Mom, you want to go to dinner tonight? Okay, was her answer. I'll drive. Okay, I'll pay. Where do you want to go? Anywhere. You can go to Red Lobster for all I care. And she's like, what's up? I said, nothing, Mom. I haven't seen you in a while. She's like, okay. So we ended up going up to their little restaurant, Laps, up in Quarryville. And about halfway through the meal, as I'm shoving all you can eat salad bar in my mouth so I don't have to talk, she finds like more. I'm like, yeah, Mom, I'm still shoving food in my mouth. She's like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, nothing. She's like, and she gives me the look, and I'm like, okay, I'm called. I'm like, well, you know how I'm kind of dating Sarah? She's like, yeah. And my mom finishes my sentence. Like, well, I think, and she goes, you want to marry her? And now my eyes are about this big because she read my mind and scared the crap out of me because she read my mind. So I said, yeah, Mom. I said, but I know this sounds fast. I know it is fast, but Mom, I know this is God's will. I'm as sure about this as I am my salvation. And I mean, that was the biggest craziest thing for me was, like, I had finally given up one of the biggest things that I had control over to God. And a month later, He put a girl in my life. And then 3 months later, He's like, all right, I'm gonna test your faith. Ask her to marry you. And my eyes about that big. I'm like, okay. So I talked to my mom. My mom's like, you sure? And I'm like, Mom, I'm as sure as my salvation. She's like, okay. And my mom being okay with it, and she honestly sounded legitimately okay with it, which shocked me to death. But I was like, okay. So, all right. So then I asked her to marry me on 12/12/12 because I knew we weren't going to get married by then, but I wanted to have some connection to 12/12/12. So I asked her to marry me. As she already knew I was going to ask her to marry me because I obviously asked for her hand. As yeah, apparently she would have paid to see because I went ghost white, and her parents thought I was going to pass out because I was stumbling all my words. It was bad. So I had asked her to marry me on 12/12/12, and then that was the longest and fastest 6 months of my life because we got married 6 months later. And now, with my dad finds out that I asked a girl to marry me, and his first words out of his mouth is, "What'd she do?" I'm like, "I love you, Dad," which was immediately followed by, "I love you, but I'm not you." And it was like, ooh, burn. Sorry, Dad, I really shouldn't have been that mean, but you kind of have to know. But so that was definitely, I got a lot of flack, and not just from, I mean, really none from lost people, because They don't care. It's your life. You want to mess it up, you go mess it up. But it was my sisters. My grandmother thought it was crazy, which I get that. But just like my friends and a lot of Christian people I knew were like, "You're gonna get married after knowing this woman for 4 months?" And I'm like, "Yep." And it was just like God's like, "Look, this is gonna be part of your test. Like you're getting tested. Like, do you really trust me or not?" And I got like my sisters thought it was crazy, and then I proceeded to point out the fact that the middle one got married the same time frame as I was. I'm like, so really you have no room to talk. So she shut up. But that was definitely to finish it off real quick. I'm not gonna read it all, but I'm gonna read Luke 15:25 on a little bit. The elder son was in the fields. I'm gonna sum it up, kind of my words. The elder son was in the fields. He hears the party going on, and he comes back to the house and it's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And the servant's like, "Your brother was lost, is found, like he's home safe," and he's like, "Well," and his dad finally comes out and is like, "Look, your brother was lost, and like your brother was out in the world, living like hell. He came back. He's repentant. This is a time to rejoice." But he's like, "Well, I never had this. Like I never." And the father's like, "What's mine is yours. It was yours every time you asked." And that hit me last night. I mean, I was not that. Obviously, I was the other son. But that hit me like, even if you haven't messed up or you're the religious group as I have it on here, the kind of cold. This is how it's supposed to be. Why are you doing it for someone that was out there in riotous living? And it hit me like, God has all the same grace, gifts for you too. And it's like, it really took me back because my best friend Kevin, who was my best man in my wedding, and most of you guys know Kevin. He definitely wasn't. He had the "I got this," like he was coming here, the youth group, and he had gotten burned by this religion. Like, I know it's kind of an offshoot of this, but he got burned by this, and God had called me to, and God was like, "Look, you need to witness to him." I'm like, "I don't know how to witness." He's like, "Just shut up and let me talk." I'm like, "Okay." And literally, I'd hang up with Kevin and I'd talk to him, and he'd say something and it would trigger it, and I would just like, "All right, God, you work." And so, a lot of prayer there. I mean, that was probably really another one of the most times I've ever prayed.
Right.
But and I actually cried over Kevin, which really blew my mind because I never cried over somebody. I mean, I'm a guy. You don't cry. Your men don't cry. But I was like, Lord, he's going to hell. I mean, when you sit underneath Wilma, you learn that pretty quick, or you get scared off and don't come anymore. Which I really like, because it weeds out the thorns. So, and I know that hit Kevin a lot because I had witnessed to Kevin. I got him saved, and which was amazing because there was a couple times that I just like Wilma made a point at each one of us and was like, when did you get saved? Kevin's quick.
He is.
He came up with a story, and I'm like, wow, you lying dog. Like, because I had hung out, I mean, I'm like a fifth son of the family. Well, I had hung out with them, basically almost lived with them for the last 2 years. I had known that whole story, but what I don't know anyone else knew was, that was a bunch of different stories that he had cut up and shoved into one. But he was so quick, he did it, nobody else noticed it. And on the way home, because I was driving home, I said, Kevin, that's a bunch of crap. Just to be frank, Kevin, that's like, and with Kevin, you had to just cut to the chase.
Yeah.
You couldn't sugarcoat it, you had to cut to the chase. Kevin, you're going to hell.
Yes.
And I love you too much to let you go there without me trying to help. I said, I tore the story apart. I said, that was Disney World, that was blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, you saw right through it. I'm like, yeah. And I hate to break it to you, Wilma's just too nice, but she saw it too.
Yes.
She's insane. So, that was probably one of his changing, one of his moments he came and realized, well, so I got him saved. Well then, I knew this girl, and I go to this church, and I quit hanging out with Kevin.
Right.
And so I was like, all right. I'm like, all right, God, now how's this work? Because Kevin still needs to get help. He's not, I mean, he's saved, but he's still a baby. And God said, now you need to show him what a godly relationship, godly marriage looks like. And that was like, wow, I didn't even think you could use it that way. He said, God, duh.
Yeah.
I swear God has spiritual 2x4s with me.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, honestly, I think I'm done. I know this is kind of a weird way to end.
I'm sorry.
But thank you guys for everybody listening to me. This is, I appreciate the opportunity to. This is the first time I've ever preached. So, as you can probably tell. Thank you guys. Let me close in prayer. Dear Father, Lord, thank you for this opportunity to pray. Lord, thank you for everybody being able to make it here. Lord, I pray that that everybody got something out of this, Lord. I know you say that you can get good at anything, and the word never comes back void. Lord, so Lord, have your will. Lord, give everybody safe traveling mercies home, and bring them back to the next point in time. We ask this in Son's precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Good job, Mark.